As the tomatoes and the peppers cook in there, the peppers cook quicker. First thing that happens is your skin kind of blisters up. And I only want to do them really till that skin is just a little bit charred and blistered. You don't want to cook them to a cinder. The tomatoes take a lot longer. So this is about right for the first side on the peppers. So then I just flip them over, put them skin side down. So this is about done for the peppers. It's got just a little bit of charring around the edges on the bottom side, so we take them off. Tomatoes need a little bit more. I like them to be a little more blackened than that. Now we take the peppers and I just cut them once lengthwise sometimes. And I just cut them into little strips, like so. Onion, I use about a smallish onion, medium-sized onion, old-fashioned medium-sized onion. And I use about a quarter of the onion for every jar of salsa, about every pound of tomatoes, so I'll use half of this onion. I don't want to put in too much onion for things that are going to be canned, because onions aren't as acid as the tomatoes and the peppers. And an important thing whenever you're canning stuff is acidity. I cut up the onion pretty small. That's the way I like the tomatoes to look. Pretty well charred and wrinkled. And we just turn them over. I usually just do that by just rolling them over with a spoon. You can see they've gotten nice and mushy. I want to make sure they get equally mushy all the way through. This just really develops so much flavor in them, roasting them and charring them like this. Doesn't usually take as long on the second side since they're already hot. The last ingredient is fresh cilantro. Now we're late in the season here for cilantro. Ours is already bolted, gone to seed, died down. And dried cilantro is worthless. So what I have is some frozen cilantro. And it loses its texture and its color some, but it really keeps its flavor. It smells wonderful. This frozen cilantro is stuff that we grew in our own garden. I froze it just earlier this summer, so it hasn't been there very long. Basil keeps for a really long time in the freezer. I'm not sure if cilantro would keep as long too. It probably would. Hopefully I find out. So, I don't know, for a couple of pounds of tomatoes, about a tablespoon of chopped up cilantro would be about right, which is about that much. The tomatoes are done now, been roasted on both sides, and I let them cool down a little bit before I throw them in the blender. Just throw them in, skins, cores, burnt spots and all. One of the other things is all this juice, this kind of amber juice that collects in the pan. There are recipes you will find in the world that will tell you to discard that juice, or after you've roasted the tomatoes to actually put them on a colander and press them to get rid of some of the extra liquid. Now, they're thinking that that makes your sauce less runny, but the thing is, this juice is like absolute concentrated, amplified tomato essence. It's just incredibly flavorful. And there is no way you're going to get me to pour that down the drain. So I just add it in there with the tomatoes, put the whole thing in, and then I just boil it down to make it thicker. It takes longer, but it gives you all that tomato yumminess. Don't blend them very much, just a little bit on low, so that you don't really want, you know, complete puree. You just want it chopped up some. That's about all it takes. Transfer the whole thing. What we got here? We got 3.5, almost 4 cups. Yeah, it'll make just about 2 jars after I add the rest of the ingredients, boil it down a little bit. That's actually pretty thick already. The salsa I make is pretty runny salsa. I don't get this thick and blocky stuff. I made it pretty thin to begin with. That's, you know, when we've been in Mexico, that's the way I've seen the salsas. They're much thinner than the stuff you buy here, and you know, I like it that way. So I put that on the stove. You can kind of see the consistency of it now, the chunkiness and the runniness of it. Put that on the stove to simmer.